So hello, we were doing the complete course for SEBI and our phase 1 course is already live, so go and watch it. PDFs are available on the Telegram related to this exam as well as the other exams. And now this is our 2000 most important question series for SEBI Grade A Phase 1. Very important questions with answers. So let's start with this. Which of the following correctly represents the components of the Indian financial system? Financial market, financial instrument, financial institutions, financial services, banks, NBFCs, mutual funds, insurance companies, money market, capital market, commodity market, forex market, or RBI, SEBI, IRDA, PFRDA. So the answer is A, that is financial market, financial instruments, financial institutions, and financial services. So the financial system is structurally composed of markets, instruments, institutions, and services. Then, which of the market deals primarily in instruments having maturity of less than 1 year? Capital market, money market, primary market, or secondary market? So the answer is money market. The money market handles short-term instruments such as treasury bills, commercial papers, and certificates of deposit with maturity below 1 year. We have already completed this in our theory. Then which of the following is not a money market instrument? Treasury bills, commercial paper, certificate of deposit, or equity shares. So equity share is not a money market instrument. Equity shares are long-term capital market instruments, whereas the other options are short-term. Then the primary market is primarily concerned with trading of existing securities, issue of new securities to investors, settlement of trades, then price discovery through exchanges. So the answer is issue of new securities to investors. The primary market facilitates capital formation by issuing new securities directly to investors for the first time. Then which entity regulates the securities market in India? Very simple. Securities and Exchange Board of India. SEBI is a statutory regulator of the securities market under the SEBI Act 1992. Now this is one of the previous year questions कि कौन से ईयर में हुआ था. So 1992 में statutory. ठीक है. SEBI, which of the following best describes SEBI's primary objective? Maximizing government revenue, promoting industrial growth, protecting investor interest, and regulating securities market. So this is the right answer. SEBI's mandate is threefold: investor protection, market development, and regulation of the securities market. We have covered this in chapter 2. क्या क्या? Investor protection, market development, and regulation of securities market. Under which act was SEBI is given statutory status? So as I said, this is a previous year का question. अभी हमने देखा कंपनीज एक्ट 1956, आरबीआई एक्ट 1934, सेबी एक्ट 1992, सिक्योरिटीज कॉन्ट्रैक्ट रेगुलेशन एक्ट 1956. So the answer is SEBI Act 1992. SEBI was established as a statutory body through SEBI Act 1992. What? Statutory. Which of the following is a quasi-judicial power of SEBI? Framing regulation, conducting inspection, imposing penalties and adjudication, and promoting investor education. Quasi-judicial power is imposing penalties and adjudication. So SEBI has quasi-judicial powers to adjudicate cases, impose penalties, and pass orders against market intermediaries. Which market ensures liquidity to existing securities? Primary market, money market, secondary market, or capital market? So the answer is secondary market. The secondary market allows buying and selling of already issued securities, thereby providing liquidity. क्या करता है? Allow buying and selling किसका? Of already existing या already issued securities. Which of the following participants acts as an intermediary between issuer and investor in the primary market? Clearing corporations, merchant bankers, stock brokers, or depository participants? So the answer is merchant bankers. Merchant bankers manage public issues, pricing, compliance, and allotment in the primary market. Which of the following instruments represents ownership in a company? Debenture, bond, equity share, commercial paper. So obviously equity share. Equity shares represent ownership and residual claim on the company's assets and profits. Which market instrument is typically unsecured and issued at discount? Certificate of deposit, commercial paper, corporate bond, or preference share? So the answer is commercial paper. Commercial papers are unsecured short-term instruments issued at a discount by corporates. Which regulator oversees the pension sector in India? IRDAI, SEBI, PFRDA, or RBI? So the answer is PFRDA. So PFRDA, that is Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, regulates the pension sector, includes NPS. Then, which of the following best differentiates money market from capital market? Risk profile, issuer type, maturity period, or trading mechanism. So the answer is maturity period. The maturity period, that is short term versus long term, is the fundamental distinction between money and capital market. हमने याद भी किया था. You tell me क्या याद किया था मनी एंड कैपिटल मार्केट के लिए. देन विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग CL क्या था? कैपिटल मार्केट एंड लॉन्ग टर्म. और एम के क्या याद किया था? MS मनी मार्केट एंड शॉर्ट टर्म. देन विच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग इज अ कैपिटल मार्केट इंस्ट्रूमेंट? ट्रेजरी बिल, कमर्शियल पेपर, इक्विटी शेयर, सर्टिफिकेट ऑफ डिपॉजिट. सो इक्विटी शेयर. Equity shares are long-term instruments traded in the capital market. Which function of SEBI involves issuing guidelines and regulation? Executive, legislative, judicial, developmental. So the answer is legislative. SEBI performs a legislative function when it frames rules, regulation, and guidelines for the market. Which institution facilitates electronic holding of securities? Stock exchange, clearing corporation, depository, merchant banker. So the answer is depository. Depositories like NSDL and CDSL enable dematerialized electronic holding of securities. NSDL is National Security Depository Limited, and CDSL is Central Depository Services Limited. We have done this in the chapters. What is the role of a depository participant? Regulate depositories, interface between investor and depository, settle trades, issue securities. So the answer is interface between investor and depository. So DPs acts as a agent of depositories providing services directly to investors. Which of the following is not a financial intermediary? Mutual fund, insurance company, stock exchange, bank. So the answer is stock exchange. Stock exchanges are market infrastructure institutions, not intermediaries. Which of the following market deals in new and existing securities? Both. Primary market only, secondary market, capital market, money market. So the answer is capital market. The capital market includes both primary, new issues, and secondary, already existing securities segments. Which of the following correctly describes the role of financial intermediaries? They only provide advisory services, they connect surplus units with deficit units, they regulate financial markets, या they issue currency. So the answer is they connect surplus units with deficit units. And financial intermediaries like banks, non-banking financial companies, and mutual funds mobilize savings from surplus units and channel them to deficit units. Which of the following instruments gives a fixed return and priority over equity in dividend payment? Equity share, preference share, convertible debenture, equity warrant. So the answer is preference share. So preference shares carry a fixed dividend and enjoy priority over equity shareholders but usually lack voting rights. Debentures differ from equity shares primarily because debentures represent ownership, carry voting rights, are debt instruments, have variable instruments. So the answer is are debt instruments. So debentures are debt instruments representing a loan to the company, unlike equity which represent ownership. Which market participant is responsible for ensuring smooth clearing and settlement of trades? The stockbroker, depository, clearing corporation, merchant banker. So the answer is clearing corporation. Clearing corporation guarantees settlement by acting as a counterparty to every trade, thereby reducing counterparty risk. Which of the following functions is performed by stock exchanges? Issuing new securities, price discovery of traded securities, regulating monetary policy, accepting public deposits. So the answer is price discovery of traded securities. Stock exchange facilitate price discovery through continuous buying and selling of securities. Then which of the following is a developmental function of SEBI? Conducting inspections, adjudicating disputes, promoting investor education, or levying penalties. So the answer is promoting investor education. SEBI undertakes investor education and awareness initiatives as part of its developmental role. Which of the following markets is most sensitive to changes in interest rates? Equity market, commodity market, money market, or forex? So the answer is money market. Money market instruments are short term and directly influenced by changes in policy rates and liquidity condition. क्या रखा था हमने? MS Microsoft Office. MS money market, SS short term and casual leave. Capital market and long term, CL. Which institution is responsible for maintaining price stability in India? SEBI, RBI, Ministry of Finance, Niti Aayog. So the answer is RBI. Reserve Bank of India is mandated to maintain price stability primarily through monetary policy. Which of the following statements about capital market is correct? They deal only with government securities, they facilitate long-term funding, they operate only through banks, they are regulated solely by RBI. So the answer is they facilitate long-term funding. Capital markets mobilize long-term funds for business and government through equity and debt instruments. Then which of the following instruments is issued by the Government of India to meet short-term funding needs? Government bonds, treasury bonds, sovereign gold bonds, state development bonds. So the answer is treasury bills. Treasury bills are short-term government securities issued to manage temporary cash mismatches. You tell me, what are masala bonds? We have done this in theory, masala bonds. Then which of the following best explains dematerialization of securities? Conversion of electronic securities into paper, conversion of paper securities into electronic form, settlement of trades, and listing of securities. So the answer is conversion of paper securities into electronic form. Dematerialization refers to converting physical certificates into electronic form, enabling safer and faster trading. Which market ensures capital formation in the economy? Secondary, money market, primary, or forex? So the answer is primary market. Capital formation occurs when new securities are issued in the primary market. Which of the following instruments carries the highest risk for investors? Treasury bills, government bonds, equity shares, certificates of deposit. So the answer is equity shares. Equity shares involves market risk and no assured returns, making them riskier compared to debt instruments. Which regulator coordinates among financial sector regulator through the financial stability mechanisms? SEBI, RBI, Ministry of Finance, Interregulatory Forum. So the answer is Reserve Bank of India plays a key role in financial stability and coordination among regulators through structured mechanisms. Which of the following is not a function of SEBI? Regulating stock exchanges, protecting investor, conducting monetary policy, registering market intermediaries. So obviously conducting monetary policy. Then monetary policy is the function of RBI. कौन करता है monetary policy committee? Then which segment of the capital market deals with government securities? Equity market, GSEC market, that is government security market, commodity market, or derivatives market? So the answer is GSEC market. So GSEC market handles government securities such as bonds and treasury bills. Which of the following ensures transparency in the security market? Insider trading, price manipulation, disclosure norms, cartelization. So the answer is disclosure norms. Mandatory disclosure norms enhance transparency and protect investors. Which institution is the custodian of foreign exchange reserves in India? SEBI, RBI, Ministry of Commerce, IMF, International Monetary Fund. So the answer is RBI. So RBI manages India's foreign exchange reserves. Which of the following instrument is traded in the secondary market? IPO, FPO, listed equity shares, rights issue. So listed equity shares. Initial public offering, दिस इज़ फॉलो अप पब्लिक ऑफरिंग. ये फर्स्ट टाइम होगा, ये पहले एक बार हो गया, बाद में वापस नीड के हिसाब से. सो आर आंसर इज लिस्टेड इक्विटी शेयर्स. वन सिक्योरिटीज आर इशूड एंड लिस्टेड, दे आर ट्रेडेड इन दी सेकेंडरी market. Which of the following best describes market liquidity? Ability to earn high returns, ease of buying and selling securities, availability of credit, stability of prices. So the answer is ease of buying and selling securities. Liquidity refers to how easily a security can be bought or sold without significantly affecting its price, is what liquidity is. Which of the following entities acts as a self-regulatory organization in Indian market? RBI, SEBI, Stock Exchange, or Ministry of Finance? So the answer is stock exchanges. Stock exchanges functions as self-regulatory organizations under SEBI's oversight. Which of the following is a characteristic of an efficient capital market? Information asymmetry, delayed price reaction, quick reflection of information and prices, guaranteed returns. So the answer is quick reflection of information and prices. In an efficient market, price quickly reflect all available information. Which of the following risk arises due to failure of a counterparty to honor obligations? Market risk, liquidity risk, credit risk, or settlement risk? So the answer is settlement risk. Settlement risk occurs when one party fails to deliver securities or funds as agreed. Which institution introduced electronic trading in Indian stock market? BSE, NSE, RBI, SEBI. So the answer is NSE, that is National Stock Exchange. National Stock Exchange pioneered electronic screen based trading in India. And BSE is Bombay Stock Exchange. कितनी number of companies हैं इसमें and कितनी हैं इसमें? We have studied this. You tell me. Which of the following is not a benefit of dematerialization? Elimination of fixed certificates, faster settlement, lower transaction costs, guaranteed profits. So the answer is guaranteed profits. Dematerialization improves efficiency and safety but does not guarantee profits. Which of the following entities approves stock exchange bylaws? RBI, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, SEBI, stock exchange themselves. So the answer is SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, approves rules and bylaws of stock exchanges to ensure orderly market functioning. Which of the following represent a claim on future income of a company? Equity share, preference share, debenture, treasury bill. So the answer is equity share. Equity shareholders have a residual claim on future profits of the company. Which of the following markets contribute directly to economic growth by mobilizing savings? Commodity market, capital market, forex market, informal credit market. So the answer is capital market. Capital markets mobilize household savings into productive investment, aiding economic growth. Which of the following best explains price discovery? Fixing prices by regulators, determining price share, demand and supply, government determined pricing, pre-announced issues price. So the answer is determining price through demand and supply. Price discovery occurs when prices are determined through interaction of buyers and sellers. Which of the following is the apex regulator of the Indian financial system? Obviously the answer is RBI. ठीक है, SEBI, RBI, Ministry of Finance, Parliament. So the answer is RBI. RBI is the apex monetary authority and regulator overseeing the broader financial system. Then which of the following best describes the role of clearing corporations? They provide trading platforms, they regulate market intermediaries, they guarantee settlement of trades, they issue securities. So you are going to answer this. In the next we'll start with this 51 and then will we move ahead. In total we are going to do more than 2000. Okay, if you haven't watched theory then go and watch it. In theory as well we have done PYQs as well as important MCQs and expected questions, very important. We'll be covering the entire syllabus here. So that's it in this. You will find a lot of important videos on the Telegram. Go and have a look. And all the very best and thank you.